In 1996, the SNES was pretty much at the end of its run, so I was a bit surprised to see a new Street Fighter released on the console. Known as Street Fighter 02 in Japan, Street Fighter Alpha 2 is a sequel to a prequel, but still remains a prequel to Street Fighter 2. The game uses the SDD1 chip, which decompresses data when it's needed. The only other game to use this chip on the SNES is Star Ocean. After the intro prepares you for what an awesome game this is, you'll be greeted by the main menu, and it's pretty simple. You have arcade, versus, and options. There's really nothing special here. The fighter selection is amped up a bit from Street Fighter Alpha, which only featured a few familiar faces from the series. Guys like Dalsim and Zangief make their return, or shall I say debut, to the game. All in all, the selection is very good and diverse. The game plays like any other Street Fighter before it, but smoother and more defined. Features like blocking in the air and combos make the whole experience that much better. Super moves are managed by 3 levels, and they're all really easy to pull off. The game's regular moves are also a breeze to do with the SNES controller. I think it's the smoothest playing Street Fighter on the console. Now, first time I played this game, I thought maybe I had a faulty copy or something. Every time you start a match, there's this long delay before the gameplay starts. This is, however, the result of the game loading the music and voices onto the sound chip, so don't be alarmed, and though it can get annoying at times, it's not by any means a deal breaker. The music is a mix of both okay and great here on the SNES version. There are a few songs that feel extremely lacking and boring, but some of these songs just sound like classic fighting game bliss. Take a listen here. A lot of classic songs from Street Fighter II have been remixed for this version, and it's actually quite nice to hear these themes again. It brings me back to the early Street Fighters. The sound effects are all really high quality, but the game sometimes struggles to play both the music and sound effects at the same time, which often results in either one or the other being temporarily interrupted. Graphically, this game is a powerhouse. Hands down the best looking fighter on the SNES, and honestly one of the best looking games on the Super Nintendo overall. The levels are great, designed with extreme detail and very colorful. I couldn't find one I didn't like. The console does have some trouble though keeping up on the stages with a lot of movement in the background, but really that's to be expected. This game really pushes the SNES to its limits. The character sprites are a perfect example of how a fighting game should look. Now obviously they don't look as smooth as they do on the Saturn or PlayStation ports, but they look better than any 16-bit console sprites I've seen. I just can't get over how great this game looks. The special endings are a little bit weak, but it doesn't really bother me any. I got over it fast. These days, I find myself playing fighters just for the love of the game, not really the reward so much anymore. The difficulty levels are a bit too relaxed in the game. Easiest setting is way too easy, and I really mean way too easy. I think my dog could beat the game this way. If you set it to the middle range, it's about as hard as Street Fighter II was on its easiest setting. I prefer a bit of a challenge, so usually set the game to its hardest difficulty, and believe me, it's not as hard as you might think. That is until you reach Akuma. As soon as you face him, it seems the real difficulty level takes effect. He throws a lot of fireballs and moves around an awful lot. Not to mention, he doesn't stay in a dizzy state for more than a second or two. The fighters all feature multiple color options like past games in the series, but this time around, Chun-Li actually features an alternate attire. Her classic gear from Street Fighter II can be worn by holding Start while selecting her. There's really not much else for me to say about a game this good, other than try it for yourself. Seriously, it's one of the best, if not the best fighter on the SNES, but also kind of on the hard to find side. It usually goes for right around 20 bucks, give or take, but come on, look at it.